All right. Well, I'm glad that all of you were able to make it out today. I know it's been a journey to make it here. I was just saying backstage, this has kind of become the Crypto Fire Festival a little bit, but I feel like it's also a moment that kind of brings a lot of us together because we've all been through some shit to be here this weekend. So this is the Layer 1 panel. And it's a little bit obligatory to do these. Every conference has a Layer 1 panel, but ours is a little bit different because we have 5 of the most exemplary figures, not the only ones, but 5 of the most interesting people you can have on stage. I want to keep this panel relatively approachable, so I'm going to start very quick with intros. Here's how I want you to do your intros, though. Each of you represents a different L1. Tell me your name, the name of your L1, and complete this sentence. My blockchain is like Ethereum, except. Okay? Only one sentence. If you go more than one sentence, I will cut you off. Okay? Raj.
Yeah, so I'm Raj Gokal. I'm a co-founder of Solana. That's the protocol that I helped get off the ground. Solana is like Ethereum, but 10,000 times more performant.
Nice.
I'm Emin. I represent Avalanche here today, and Avalanche is kind of like Ethereum, except with a very fast consensus protocol and with multiple chains on top, such that it is everything that Ethereum wants to be, but doesn't know how to get there.
Great.
Hello, I'm Mustafa. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Celestia Labs. Celestia is like Ethereum, but it provides more general purpose block space with higher data availability for rollups.
Great.
Hi, my name is Adeniyi Abiodun. I'm co-founder of Mysten Labs. We are the creator of the SWI blockchain. My blockchain is like Ethereum, but it doesn't have a max throughput and allows you to build safe smart contracts using objects instead of using bits and bytes.
My name is Keone, co-founder of Monad. Monad is like Ethereum, but parallel.
Very good. Okay, let's show you something a little bit fun. I'm kind of obsessed with blockchain naming because every blockchain has its own different take on how a blockchain should be named. I want to ask each of you what you think is the best named blockchain and why, but you cannot pick your own blockchain. Also, not Bitcoin or Ethereum because those are too easy. Okay, we'll go in reverse order. Keone, favorite blockchain name and why?
Favorite blockchain what?
Name. Best named blockchain.
Best named blockchain, oh boy. I like Solana. I think it rolls off the tongue. It's a good name.
Rolls off the tongue, okay.
I like Avalanche because it seems like something always progressing.
Okay, nice.
I think it has to be Bitcoin. Like it's simple, and people get what it means.
All right, fair.
Let's see, Crabada, because I like the crabs and the crazy playfulness that comes with it.
All right, easy.
I'll go with Ethereum. I think that
I
was
know,
really
I said
good
no
name.
Ethereum.
Oh, no Ethereum. Okay, then I'll go with Optimism.
Optimism.
Yeah,
okay,
I think
why?
I think we should be optimistic about what this technology enables, and I think it's good vibes. It
All right,
reflects
good
in
vibes.
their community.
All right, vibes are good. Okay, so speaking of optimism, so we used to speak back in the day. I mean, I remember, the 2017-2018 era was the first time that people thought, hey, Ethereum, smart contracts are great, but it doesn't scale. And we need other L1s to be able to solve this Ethereum scaling problem. And back then, we used to call this new generation of L1s Ethereum killers. Nobody really uses that term anymore. It's a little bit passé. It's almost of a different era. And I heard Jill Carlson say recently, the biggest lesson in crypto is this: never fight Ethereum. You will always lose. How do you reflect on your chain's competition with Ethereum and how that's changed over time? Raj, we'll start with you.
When did Jill say that?
Jill said that like a few months ago, fairly recently.
It's surprising. I mean, Jill was an early investor in Solana, early supporter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you were to ask Jill today how the competition is going between Solana and Ethereum, I would say it's going pretty well. It's, in the last 90 days, stablecoin transfer volumes monthly is over $50–60 billion on Solana. Visa's settling on it. Shopify's using it. There have been days and weeks where Solana's exceeded Ethereum on daily trading volume on decentralized exchanges, NFT volume, daily active addresses. Like, I could go on. So I think it's still extremely early. That's always been our.
So Anatoly often frames the relationship between Solana and Ethereum as not being competitive.
I think he He says that because Ethereum, at least right now, states that its goal is to be a settlement layer, and he thinks about Solana as an execution layer. And so there's clear separation of responsibilities in that world, if that's where it ends up.
Right.
How that ends up being complementary and how they interoperate, is yet to be seen. But we already see that there are lots of use cases around like AI. Some of the founders in the last panel are building on Solana. DePIN is almost exclusively happening on Solana. A lot of the payments and stablecoin transfers are uniquely better done on Solana. That's why Visa used Solana to scale from its Ethereum pilot. So, for now, I think we do compete on mindshare for sure, and developers, and most users of Ethereum have Solana wallets as well. But obviously, in the long term, there's plenty of room. This is why the Ethereum killer label did not catch on, because we are, I think, by most objective standards, winning. We're doing well, and Ethereum is not dead.
So your answer is bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on, and Ethereum's doing incredibly well too.
Okay.
Right,
Let me go to Gun. Gun, what's your take on the competition with Ethereum?
Sure. We never, ever marketed Avalanche as an Ethereum killer. That is a phrase that some marketing people at Consensus actually use to elevate Ethereum. Well, we've always been complementary to Ethereum. Ethereum is a single chain system. Avalanche is a multi-chain system. We can do many more things that they cannot do. And one of the most important ones is we allow other people to launch their own blockchains according to their own rules. This is something that Ethereum just fundamentally is incapable of. And we have consensus protocols that are far faster than Ethereum. So that puts us in a different game. And my competition is with Wall Street. My competition is not with my good friends in the Ethereum community, of which I'm a part still. So that is not where we are. And we're not one of these L2s that are trying to sort of carve things away from Ethereum. We've always been about bringing new tokens, new assets into the blockchain space. We've always been about bringing new science that other people cannot bring into the blockchain space. So that's what distinguishes us. We're not at all in competition.
So Mustafa, Celestia has a somewhat different relationship with Ethereum than what these other guys on stage are doing. How do you characterize, so obviously you guys are in some sense not competing for the smart contract execution stuff that Ethereum is doing, but you are competing with, as a data availability layer, what Ethereum is offering with respect to blobs and blob storage. How do you think about that competition versus cooperation with Ethereum?
Sure. So as you said, Celestia is complementary to Ethereum in many ways. Like the idea of Celestia is to scale any ecosystem. So it's not like it's just scaling its own ecosystem. Where rollups scale Ethereum and Celestia scales rollups. So yes, Ethereum has EIP 4444 and also has data availability, but ultimately that data availability, even with the full dank sharding roadmap, is very limited. Even with the full kind of like sharding roadmap, it's only 16 megabytes per block. And there's many applications that makes sense to use for off-chain data availability for higher throughput and cheaper fees. So for example, there's something like 15 Optimism stack chains deployed on Ethereum that use Celestia as a data availability layer underneath.
Fair enough. Ade, what's your answer?
Yeah, I mean, that argument, I disagree with that argument. I mean, if it's just purely on the existing market, I kind of understand. But again, I think I resonate with what Emin's saying. Our competition is not Ethereum. Our competition is to be a global coordination layer for digital assets globally. And that's a big, big market compared to just focusing on a small crypto market in a large scheme of things. SWI, as we explained, is a very new chain. We've been around for 11 months. And SWI typically does greater transaction volume than most of the L2s. In fact, it's one of the fastest growing chains today. Overall, in the space of 11 months of launch, we've seen a massive growth in TVL, massive growth in transaction trading volume. Lots of new builders come into the ecosystem just because writing applications on it is way simpler than writing an ETH. So if you want to compare broadband to dial-up, that's why I'd compare and contrast SWI to Ethereum. But we love the ETH community. In fact, more than 60% of the bridging activity on Wormhole is happening directly from ETH to SWI. So nothing against ETH, but it's simply, we think it's a system that's not going to really change much in terms of perf in the long term.
Fair enough. Keone, so I mean, your chain, Monad, it's not launched yet, but it's probably the most similar to Ethereum of anybody on the stage. How do you think about competition versus Ethereum?
Yeah, I think it is very simple, and the answer is that Ethereum ultimately needs much more performant execution. It needs low-level optimization at many layers of the stack, including the actual execution layer where parallelism is needed, as well as the state storage and access layer where a custom database is needed to greatly increase the overall throughput of state access. Ethereum needs all of these improvements in order to ultimately scale to hundreds of millions of users. And Monad is pioneering some of those directions of going really deep on execution, ultimately so that the entire Ethereum ecosystem can benefit.
So is that a yes and, or how would you characterize that answer of are you competing or are you cooperating or something in between?
Cooperating.
Cooperating. Okay, fair enough. All right, let's take Ethereum aside. Let's talk about Bitcoin. So I was just at Hong Kong, and now here, Bitcoin L2s are a big story. I feel like in the U.S. people don't tend to talk about it as much, but in this side of the world, Bitcoin L2s are top of mind for a lot of people, and there are some big launches that are happening soon. Many people think of Bitcoin, okay, they're the granddaddy, that people are adding these quote-unquote Bitcoin L2s. Depends on how you want to characterize what an L2 is. But what would you have to say to a developer who's planning to build on a Bitcoin L2 because they say, look, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, right? Like, why are we going further afield and creating all these new trust assumptions, blah, blah, blah. Why would I build on one of your bullshit VC chains rather than build on Bitcoin? What would your answer be to such a developer? Why should they not consider the Bitcoin L2s? Popcorn style, anybody?
Yeah, I think it's an argument about provenance, basically. So Bitcoin is the OG cryptocurrency, the OG distributed blockchain system. And there's an argument to be made that maybe some of these systems that are being built on top of Bitcoin can somehow inherit some of the provenance of Bitcoin. With that said, it's still very early in terms of the actual trust assumptions, having trustless bridges between Bitcoin and whatever that layer is. We definitely don't want just like a multi-sig that's securing that actual relationship. But there's a lot of speculation going on right now for people jostling to try to define that layer on top of Bitcoin that inherits some of the provenance.
I mean, I guess for Celestia, it's a little bit different because we would encourage people to build on Bitcoin L2s because there's a big need, you can build a Bitcoin L2 with Celestia as a data availability layer. And for Bitcoin, there's even a bigger need for kind of off-chain data availability layers than even Ethereum because the data availability is even more limited. And the Bitcoin L2 space is very kind of like nascent and exciting, but there's definitely a lot more work to be done. Like the BitVM, like the main bridging mechanism right now is BitVM, which is very complex and janky, and has a lot of trust assumptions. So right now it's just like a very kind of like very technologically immature space, but there's definitely a lot of activity happening there.
So I'll say a few words about this. The entire L2 space is generally smoke and mirrors. These L2s are typically multi-sigs. They typically do not have a decentralized sequencer, nor do they typically have fraud proofs. So these things are not in the crypto spirit. They're just somebody's laptop running a little bit of an execution engine and issuing tokens. So you could go that route. That's possible. But really the right way to view these things is as chains connected by different kinds of bridges with different trust assumptions. And the right place to build is always on the most decentralized chain. And when it comes to that, Avalanche is by far the superior decentralized platform. We've had a Bitcoin layer 2 for more than a year and a half, and there's more value on Avalanche than there is value in the Lightning Network, the chosen L2 of the Bitcoin community. So we've already proven ourselves, and that's the right place to do your programming because you have all the flexibility of a programmable smart contract platform in Avalanche with all of the decentralization and all of the normal trust assumptions that we came into crypto for.
I think I agree with Emin about L2s mostly being marketing. What we've seen with Solana and Bitcoin is Solana is effectively an L2 for Bitcoin for certain things. So the Pups meme coin that just launched on Bitcoin and went super viral, 20% of it is now on Solana, and that team actually markets Solana as a Bitcoin L2 for trading that token. If I were talking to a developer, and I have talked to developers who are making this choice, I think most of them get there because of Bitcoin's mindshare. If I ask my uncle, what he's doing in crypto, he's going to say, "Oh yeah, I'm in Bitcoin. You do Bitcoin, right? How's your Bitcoin going?" Most people still think of Bitcoin as crypto. So, and the assets, the the value of Bitcoin that can flow into these systems is enormous. I don't blame any entrepreneur for trying to pursue that. Magic Eden, the largest NFT exchange on Solana, now has the majority of its NFT trading volume in ordinals on Bitcoin. So a really high-performing team can execute there and do extremely well. So I think it's important for all of these solution spaces to be explored. I think if people have demand for using Bitcoin in DeFi and in layer 2-like solutions, we can't stop it. But I do agree with Emin that it's a risk if the same centralized solutions for scaling that have happened on Ethereum end up happening on Bitcoin. I would rather see more decentralized versions of those solutions happen.
Sure. Yeah, from my perspective, I'm still undecided, still on the fence. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I've been in the crypto space, in Bitcoin space since 2011. I'm still struggling to understand the problem space of what problem are they trying to solve with a new stack. So I'm waiting to be impressed. We have some zero-knowledge bridging technology that is coming to the market that allows you to trustlessly bridge assets from Bitcoin to SWI and vice versa. I would say take the SWI code base, fork it. It's the most scalable there is out there. It doesn't have a max throughput, scales horizontally. Use ZK bridging technology and see what you can do. Again, I'm still waiting to see what the problems they're trying to solve is. I am still unsure. But again, I think I could be proven wrong.
Well, so a common critique that many people make of layer 1s is that we have too many. Right? You go to page 1 of CoinMarketCap, probably something like half of them are layer 1s of some sort of or another. What do you say to people who say that, hey, there are too many L1s, why do we have all these? Why do they keep kind of, instead of having applications, we seem to be creating more and more blockchains. What do you say to somebody who says we have too many?
I would say, I think, as an industry, I would still consider us to be pre-product market fit. And until there is, and you know what they say about product market fit is, there's no one way to define it, but you know it when you see it. And I think we'll know it when something becomes so powerful at the application layer that it takes all the attention away from the infrastructure layer, and it starts to decide who is a winner at the infrastructure layer. And so, that's...
So you think we only have product market fit if and when some application is way bigger than the L1s?
I would say yes, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Maybe it's a few applications with the same users, but we need a TikTok, we need a Facebook, we need something that gets to 100 million, a billion users.
Right, hold on, I want to pause there and pivot the question a little bit. Do you guys agree that blockchains don't have product market fit yet?
Sorry, what's the question?
The question is, do smart contract platforms have product market fit?
Absolutely they do.
Raj says they do not.
Absolutely they do.
I think on the metrics that Emin's probably thinking about, Solana absolutely has product market fit. We have organic developer uptake, organic user uptake. Those things are all happening.
Sure.
But I would consider the product market fit that I want to see a period of time where applications are more powerful than infrastructure, and I think at that point we'll stop seeing this much capital flowing into infrastructure.
So Raj's claim is that we don't have product market fit until an application flips the infrastructure.
So blockchains are platforms at the end of the day. If you look at any platform business, ultimately what you want is a net present value of all apps or applications across the ecosystem to be greater than the underlying value of the underlying infrastructure itself, right? We're not there yet, and I think we want to be there ultimately, so I actually agree in a sense. But crypto's existing product market fit is in trading, and we're seeing trading volumes, especially on Solana and other L1s and L2s, significantly high right now. But we want to be in a place where we have applications that are clearly indistinguishable. There should be no separation between a Web 2 and Web 3 app. It should just be an application. And I think once we get there and we start to elevate the user experience to something very akin to Web 2, we're not there yet, and I'm waiting to see that day coming. And some of the technologies we've been building with ZK login allows you to log in with your Google account to use the chain. The ability to abstract away gas. These allow you to build applications that completely remove the blockchain. I don't go to a website and say, this is an amazing website because it's built on Google, or it's awesome because it's built on Alibaba. No one gives a damn. It's an application. It's a website. A website is a website. So we need to get there in crypto where the chains are put further down the stack and no one thinks about them, and it's really about the user experience. That's when we know we've reached product market fit.
Okay. Good. We skipped over your answer. You said, yes, you think it does have product market fit. Why?
So no, the blockchains clearly have product market fit. Raj is actually pointing out something interesting. When the dot-com explosion happened, applications managed to capture value that is greater than the value that was capturable at the platform level. That was true of dot-com era. Yeah. And I don't know that that will have to necessarily be true in the blockchain space at all. And I think it's quite the opposite. I think the platforms have a place, a unique angle where they can capture far more value than applications on top. And that's why we're seeing this rather stable situation where L1s are more valuable than most other tokens. But going back to your original point, do we have too many L1s? Yes, we have too many L1s, but also we don't have enough. Let me expand. What you see is a bunch of asinine plays to issue tokens. People take something that's very well known. You take a hat, it protects you from rain. You put a feather on it, now you have a novel hat. Okay, nobody needed that hat. You just invented an alpine hat. You put 2 feathers on it. The ZK technology, verifiable random functions, verifiable delay functions, accumulators. These were all supposed to save the day for Ethereum. None of them went anywhere. You do not, and I tell you this as a crypto expert. I'm an academic. I was a professor at Cornell for 19 years. I know all of these acronyms, and I assure you, you do not need one of those for whatever you are doing next. You just don't need that stuff. What you do need is you need to be able to issue your own chain according to your own rules. So you need a multi-chain platform. And that's really what most people clamor. You do not need these fancy mumbo-jumbo words. You don't need to read 15,000 blog posts to try to figure out where the space is at. And I think that's the universe that we're going to see. I want all of you application developers to have your own chain. That's what you should think about. And what you shouldn't think about is this crazy mumbo-jumbo crypto stuff.
Now let's let Adi jump in.
Yeah, so again, for me, I personally don't believe you need your own chain, right? I think that's what we don't want. I think it's already shown the amount of fragmentation that it causes. You want a global state machine where you have shared state across. In fact, we believe the value of a smart contract platform is the abundance of available interesting state that you have to use. When you start sharding state, you start to create fragmentation, and you actually create new problems. In SWI, it doesn't have a scalability problem. We've already solved that. We've already shown you throw 8x the hardware, you get 8x the TPS, and no increase in latency. So scalability is solved. What you do want to do is to be able to define rules around your assets, complex rules around your assets. While we're Facebook, one of the most important things we're building for Libra is the ability to have well-defined rules around assets. And now you can build closed-loop token standards that say, you could trade this asset on Friday. You could trade this asset only on Mondays. You could only transfer it if you have a KYC credential. You could only transfer it if you have an @JP Morgan account. So we start to think about the low-level elements that you need as a programmer. And I actually disagree. You do need things like ZK Tech. I want to be able to use my Web2 accounts, but protect it against from Google snooping or any other infrastructure providing knowing what I'm doing online. It allows you to onboard millions of users without having to have wallets. So we think we do need elevated user experiences for builders, and we don't believe in a world where you need multiple chains. Now, I think it's more of an exception rather than a rule. There are scenarios where infrastructure organizations might want to have a private chain, but realistically, they're always asking, how do I get access to the broader market of liquidity? So I think there are ways in which we solve that, but I think for everybody building a chain, I think we don't want a broken internet. The internet works as this massive communication services connecting together, and I think that interoperability is very important. I think blockchains, having multiple chains actually breaks that problem.
Okay, so let me pause here. Keone, you are actually building a new L1. What do you say to people who say that there are too many L1s?
In one sense, I think we have
I was asking Keone.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, I think just regarding the product market fit thing, I just want to mention that I think decentralized currency has achieved product market fit. Like if you think about the fact that with fiat, governments have arbitrary ability to inflate the currency at their own will and take all the inflation for themselves. That's a huge issue, and you can see that in countries like Argentina, where they have incredibly high inflation rates, like I think 20%, 30%, something like that. Having a decentralized currency where that's not possible, that already has product market fit. But then beyond that, like to talk about layer ones, I think we're still in this Cambrian explosion phase where there's still a lot of unsolved problems. But at the end of the day, there is product market fit in the sense that any developer can build an application, deploy it into this shared global state, and immediately have access to tens to hundreds of millions of users in an environment where it's composable with everything else that's already out there. So there's still problems to be solved in terms of user onboarding, on-ramping is quite tough, on-ramping into DeFi. We solve these problems and then solve the infrastructure problems, and at the end of the day, that's what gives us something that could take over the world.
Fair enough. Okay.
So
Mustafa, sorry, let me translate the question a little bit. Obviously, you're not building a smart contract blockchain, but many people will argue there are too many DA layers. Obviously, Celestia in some sense was the first, or maybe Ethereum was the first, you guys were second. Now there's a bunch of them. What do you say to people who say there's too many DA layers now?
well, maybe there is, but ultimately, like Celestia is the first one. So what am I supposed to say to? Of course, like competitors exist, and but I just want to go back to the question about the too many L1s first, even though that's been over answers. Like this is because this is fundamentally the reason why I'm building, like why we're building Celestia. Like every cycle, like I've been in crypto since 2011, and every cycle there's this new phase of new layer ones that have incremental improvement over the previous layer ones, and those layer ones just replicate the entire same ecosystem as the previous layer ones, a domain name system, an NFT marketplace, so on, some DeFi, AMM, so on and so forth, just written in a different programming language with some, with a different color or flavor. And I don't know, maybe Sui will be the final L1 that solves everyone's problems. Maybe Solana will be the final L1, or Monad will be the final L1, and that's the only L1 we use. But history has shown that's unlikely to be the case. And even in Web 2, there's always incremental improvements to be made. And the reason why we're building in a modular rollup stack is because developers can deploy what we're seeing in the market is that developers can deploy their own rollup chain with incremental improvements in seconds, not in years, because they can just take the EVM, modify it, parallelize it, add an opcode for their use case, and deploy it within seconds using a rollup as a service provider. I don't think it's all just smoke and mirrors, because Arbitrum, for example, Arbitrum does have working fraud proofs. It does have a forced inclusion inbox. It's not just a multi-sig. There's working fraud proofs. There's decentralized fraud proofs. With the research system, anyone can submit a fraud proof, and so on and so forth. I agree with Goon that it is a multi-chain ecosystem. We just disagree on whether it's L2s or independent chains in their own right. In terms of the question, is there too many DA layers? Competition, of course, competition will exist. Right now, Celestia is the only general-purpose DA layer that's live. Of course, we're going to have others launching soon, like EigenDA, Avail, and so on and so forth. So we're going to see how the market dynamics play out. But I think the way it's going to happen, the way that it's going to play out is going to be that there's a few DA layers. There's going to be even more settlement layers and millions of application-specific rollups.
Okay. You guys are out there doing battle every day for mindshare, for developers, for applications. But look, we're here together. I want to see a little bit of love on stage. So what I'm going to ask you to do is for each of you to go around and say one thing about the next person's project that you admire. Okay, so Raj, say something about Avalanche that you admire.
Sure, yeah. Can I say two things?
You can say two things.
All right, I'll give you two things. One, I'll say, as you can kind of tell, I think Solana loves competition. We love fierce competition. We love honest competition from people that have, ferocity about the ideas they're bringing to the table. And I think Emin is probably the most ferocious L1 founder that I know. And he never backs down from a fight, but he'll shake your hand behind stage. And he's friends with everyone, and he's been very supportive to a lot of founders. So I think as an individual, I have a lot of respect for Emin and what he's brought to the space. The second thing I'll say is Chris Bernitzky has this framework of how L1 architectures might converge over time. And Keone was talking about store of value. Bitcoin has clearly proven that and wins that. I think the other way that we see divergence happening is monolith and integrated designs like Solana, where Solana is kind of the largest market share, and Sui and Monad are following with inspiration from our design. And then over in sovereign chains and the idea that anyone can run their own chain, really Avalanche and Cosmos are the clear winners. And Cosmos is it's an OG project, and it's not that coordinated. I think Avalanche brings the coordination and the ability for developers to configure their own chains how they want. So I like that about their design, and obviously it's a function of Emin's DNA and his great vision as a founder.
Thank you so much, and we very much like the engineering work Solana did.
Oh, good. You are doing Celestia.
I'm
Now
doing
let him do me
Celestia.
too.
Okay.
No, not bad. No, we're going in circle. We're going in circle.
All right. So for Celestia, I think what I would say is they did a fantastic job of taking a very complex and I would say relatively unsolved issue still. That's why you're seeing the competition rise there. And giving it a nice name, data availability, and making that a part of daily parlance. So now people think that data availability is a problem that needs to be solved.
Is that a neg or a compliment there?
Mustafa,
It's a
please.
compliment.
Yeah, I think Sui. Well, I mean, actually the chief research officer, Mysten Labs, is my former professor, my PhD advisor at George Nazis, and I think like. The cool thing about Sui is their kind of the mempool and consensus protocol, Narwhal and Tusk, because I think they've identified one of the key bottlenecks of kind of blockchain scaling that no one else recognized. Because it was previously thought that the bottleneck was consensus, but everyone overlooked the kind of like what the major bottleneck was, which was mempool transaction gossiping.
All right. For me, Monad, we looked at scaling Ethereum while we're at Facebook. We couldn't get enough confidence on being able to scale it and also keep it secure. And we have a lot of promise in what Monad's working on. We really hope to see parallel EVM become the thing that actually works at scale. We do think a strong ETH is actually a strong thing for the ecosystem. We love to see users be able to benefit from the existing ecosystem. Apps actually don't take forever to load that we have right now with ETH. So look forward to the work you're doing.
Keone, you're circling around Raj.
Yep. Yeah, I think Solana really showed the world that really plentiful, really cheap transactions are possible, and just showed the world the promise of an environment where you could have thousands of transactions per second of throughput, and people, using DeFi with very small bankrolls, honestly, like. They're not paying $50 in gas or $5 in gas, showing the world what was possible and what we should all be aspiring for.
Lovely.
Agreed.
This is very heartwarming. I like the way you guys.
We can
approach
keep
this.
going.
We could keep going. We can make this a whole love fest, but I have a couple more questions I want to get through. So, Keone right now is the only person on stage who has not actually launched his layer 1. The rest of you are, among the titans of industry of people who've launched layer 1s. So, as the senpais to Keone, what is the advice that you would give to a new founder of things that you think L1 founders often stumble on or mistakes that they tend to make that you wish you would have not made when you built your L1? And let's maybe go around it, more or less in order of seniority in terms of how long you guys have been at this.
Yeah, it's kind of true. Yeah.
I think Emin is.
Well, I've been around more, but you guys have been on mainnet longer.
Oh, sure, yeah. I think. We were talking about trauma bonding earlier.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
And it's pretty clear, at least for now, I think pre-mainnet, it seems like Monad has really focused on community as a first-class citizen. That community is very excited. I think they're very positive, which is a great foundation to build for the culture. I think culture is incredibly important for the user base and the developer base of a chain. Things don't go well forever. They will go wrong. And how you show up in that moment and how you lead by example and how you support the ecosystem in that moment is, I think, actually where all of the culture is built. So I'm really happy that Solana, really went to market very quickly. We launched in 2020, actually in a moment of trauma. It was during the great financial crisis, during lockdowns. We launched on March 16th. That was our first crucible moment. There are many more that I'm sure everyone knows about, but I think getting to those crucible moments and using them as a teachable moment and a growing moment for your community is kind of the whole game on culture.
Yeah, Raj has some good advice. I would add that as a new founder, you're going to feel a lot of pressure to do things for regulatory purposes. And I would suggest that you always do what you know to be right and have faith that the regulators will catch up, that they will not forever be stuck in 5 years ago terms. They will not always be using outdated ideas, et cetera, but as long as you do what is true to the core crypto spirit of decentralization, that things will work out well for you.
Yeah, I think I agree with those. And additionally, I think one of the most important things is shipping as early as possible and to make sure that you have a user product feedback loop as early as possible. Because I think a lot of founders, they kind of wait too long to ship. Like you should ship your product even if it's not ready, so to make sure they have that product user feedback loop as early as possible, because that's extremely valuable in terms of figuring out how you should prioritize your roadmap and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'd say maintain a strong opinion on what you think your platform is supposed to be, because that's key to identity. And separately, hire the best. I think we've always been critics that there's not been enough great talent going into Web3, especially on the infra side. Hire the best infrastructure engineers that you can. It's going to pay off in the long run.
Reflection on the advice you've been given?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree that it's still pretty early in terms of overall growth of the crypto space. There's so much ahead for our entire ecosystem. Bringing in more talent is really important. Moving quickly so that we can actually take over the rest of the world is really important. And yeah, it's not always going to be easy, so appreciate that.
All right, so to wrap up the panel, because we're running up on time, I want to do just a quick lightning round of overrated, underrated. Okay, this is not in the notes I sent you, but I'm just kind of feeling it. So real quick, so we'll just go around very short sentence of overrated, underrated, and just short sentence of why. All right, number one, Binance Smart Chain. Overrated, underrated?
Overrated.
Overrated. Why? One sentence.
I think every market cycle brings more credible exchange competitors that will have more ability to give strong distribution to other chains, hopefully more credibly neutral ones. Okay. And so I don't think they have a big moat from cycle to cycle.
Okay. Overrated, underrated?
Underrated because it's the first app chain that showed the world that people want to build their own specific chains for their own usage. That's what I think Binance Smart Chain showed to the world. Okay. I agree with everything else you said.
Mustafa?
Underrated because people underestimate how much the product, the user experience can be improved by giving developers the flexibility to have control over their own execution environment, app chain. Just look at the Web 2. Imagine if every single Web 2 app used PHP. The Web 2 would look completely different today.
Okay.
It's entirely overrated.
Entirely overrated.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's only a minuscule improvement on Ethereum. In terms of if you look at the performance and cost of gas and everything else, I think it's only a minuscule. And it doesn't, it makes a lot of, it doesn't have the decentralization aspect that you even get from Ethereum. So I think it's a lot of corners that were cut. I think it's entirely overrated.
Okay. Keone?
Yeah, I think it's overrated. The number of validators is quite low. But I think it did show the importance of distribution and how it's really important to bring more users just from purely trading cryptos to actually using the chain.
Okay. All right. Because we only have less than a minute left, we're going to do no explanations now. Overrated, underrated, restaking. Reverse order.
Overrated.
Overrated.
What's the question?
Restaking. Restaking.
Restaking, overrated.
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 I'm just going to be contrarian and say underrated.
Okay, true contrarian. I like that. All right. Last one, crypto AI. Overrated, underrated?
Overrated for now, underrated soon.
Okay.
Exactly same. Overrated for now, underrated in the future.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree, yeah.
Okay, all right. Keone?
Overrated.
Overrated. All right, I like that. I like that. Contrarian. Okay, I think we're up on time. Thank you very much for a very spirited panel, and thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
That's it.